We're going to continue our study tonight of the end of the divided kingdom period of Bible history. Getting very, very close. You're going to see the two kings that we're looking for are going to both be on the scene tonight. And so we're going to get down pretty close to the end, and then the next lesson, I think, will be the end of it, assuming we get through everything tonight. I'm going to go ahead and advance this. I don't have a clicker that works, so I don't need it. I really don't need it. But anyway, we will follow this outline. This is pretty much the outline that's in our study guide. I don't think I've made too many changes in it. I know this has never happened to any of you, but I remember I think 2 days ago, I discovered an error in my notes here. So I know it's in there somewhere, but I can't find it. So there may be something to jump up and hit me in the face tonight, but it's not that bad. I think it's only one chapter off, so it's not a big deal. But anyway, where we left off last time is very interesting time period. Again, let's paint the picture for you. There are, at this point, as we're talking now, there is only really one major enemy, how do I put that, of the 10 northern tribes and Judah together. Now, the 10 northern tribes have been a problem for Judah also, but they're going to cease to be that for a while. Anyway, so the point that I'm making here is that you have Assyria, which is the ascending power. That's one way to remember it. That is the ascending power. And they are very much on the scene now. They have already made some inroads, and we're going to see tonight some of the things that are preparatory to them actually taking over the majority, in fact, all of the territory of the 10 northern tribes eventually. But we're going to pick up where we left off last time. Now, remember that Ahaz was being besieged by and being attacked by the guy by the name of Pekah. And I remember saying last time that he had succeeded Remaliah, but that was his father. He had not succeeded Remaliah. He had killed Pekahiah. And so he is on the throne now, having done that. And so he's on the throne, and he and the king of Syria, a guy by the name of Rezin, have come together, probably out of fear of the Assyrians, and they have attacked now the people of Judah. And you remember that when this took place, it says that Ahaz is, in fact, I'll probably pick it up and read it. Let's go back to 2 Kings. And by the way, again, you're going to be spending a lot of time in 2 Kings 16 and 2 Chronicles 28. And we will probably not get too far from that tonight. Maybe get into 2 Chronicles 29. We will get into 29 and 30. But this is the time period when Ahaz, the son of Jotham, is being attacked by the 10 northern tribes and by Rezin. And because of that, let's pick up where we, let me see if I find it here real quick. Let's pick up in verse 7 of 2 Kings 16. Now, he has been attacked. Rezin, the king of Syria, has recovered Elath. Remember, we talked about that being the city at the top of the Gulf of Aqaba, a very important trade city. And so now they have taken that. The Edomites have moved in there, so they don't have that kind of control anymore. And now Ahaz, it says in verse 7, sent messengers to Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, saying, I am your servant and your son. Come up and rescue me from the hand of the king of Syria and from the hand of the king of Israel, who are attacking me. Ahaz also took the silver and the gold that was found in the house of the Lord and in the treasures of the king's house, and sent a present to the king of Assyria. And the king of Assyria listened to him. The king of Assyria marched up against Damascus and took it, carrying its people away captive to Kir, and he killed Rezin. And so that's where we ended off last time. This has happened now. Samaria has been destroyed, and we have this man, Ahaz. has begun his dealings with this man Tiglath-Pileser. And so he's going to go up and visit him. And this is where things really begin to go south for the people of Israel, the 10 northern tribes. So let's pick up now in verse 10 of that same chapter 16. Now, before we leave that, it says that Tiglath-Pileser listened to him, and he did. And he did go in and take the territory. And he did go in and take Syria. And he did kill Rezin. But that's not going to end the problems for Ahaz from Tiglath-Pileser. So he goes up to visit. This is where we're going to pick up now. When King Ahaz, this is verse 10 of 2 Kings 16, and when King Ahaz went to Damascus to meet Tiglath-Pileser, king of Assyria, he saw the altar that was at Damascus. And King Ahaz sent to Uriah the priest a model of the altar and its pattern, exact in all its details. And Uriah the priest built the altar in accordance with all that King Ahaz had sent from Damascus. So Uriah the priest made it before King Ahaz arrived from Damascus. And when the king came from Damascus, the king viewed the altar. Then the king drew near to the altar and went up on it, and burned his burnt offering and his grain offering, and poured his drink offering, and threw the blood of his peace offerings on the altar. And the bronze altar that was before the Lord, he removed from the front of the house, from the place between his altar and the house of the Lord, and put it on the north side of his altar. And King Ahaz commanded Uriah the priest, saying, on the great altar, burn the morning offering, burnt offering, and the evening grain offering, and the king's burnt offering, and his grain offering, with the burnt offering of all the people of the land, and their grain offering, and their drink offering, and throw on it the blood of all of the burnt offering, and all the blood of the sacrifice. But the bronze altar shall be for me to inquire by. Uriah the priest did all this, as King Ahaz commanded. And King Ahaz cut off the frames of the stands and removed the basin from them. And he took down the sieve from all the bronze oxen that were under it and put it on a stone pedestal. And the covered way for the Sabbath that had been built inside the house and the outer entrance for the king, he caused to go around the house of the Lord because of the king of Assyria. So here he goes. He has gone to Damascus. Now Damascus, yes, they have defeated him. The Syrians have defeated him in the past. But he goes there to see Tiglath-Pileser, who has just destroyed Damascus and Syria. And he looks at this altar that has been made, that's being used there, and it was used by the Syrians. And so he's somehow in his mind, this is what's amazing to me. People who are opposed to God are just mentally lacking in some ways. I'm not saying they're stupid. I'm just saying that it messes with their ability to think logically, in my opinion. This doesn't make sense to me. Because, I mean, yeah, he was defeated by Rezin, and that happened. But now Tiglath-Pileser has destroyed all of that. Why would you go up there and take that? Okay, so you get the point. Anybody know what might be wrong with this situation? Who told the Israelites to build an altar to begin with? And where was that done? It was at Sinai. And here they were told what to make, how to make it, what it was to look like, etc., and how it was to be used. And the thing was 5 cubits by 5 cubits, which is about 7.5 feet by 7.5 feet. Not very big. So we know God told them to do that because it says so. But did you know that the one that was built by Solomon was also described by God? I want to lead you through this. This is important stuff, in my opinion. Maybe you don't think so, but I think it's just the kind of thing that when you know it's there, you can't help but follow it. And some of you guys are probably just like that. So I'm going to do us that favor tonight. But the altar of Solomon that he made in 2 Chronicles chapter 4 verse 1, he made, and I was talking about Solomon, but Solomon himself didn't make it, of course. The workmen made it. He made an altar of bronze 20 cubits long and 20 cubits wide and 10 cubits high. So this was now 4 times, whatever that is. I'm not good at math. But that many times bigger than the original one, that the 5 cubit one. And this is what Solomon made. Why did Solomon make that? Well, turn with me to 1 Chronicles chapter 28 and I'm going to start in verse 11. We're probably not going to read the whole thing. But let's just go there and look at it. This is as David is getting Solomon ready to reign, getting him ready to build the temple. And so here it says in verse 11 of 1 Chronicles 28, Then David gave Solomon his son the plan of the vestibule of the temple and of its houses, its treasures, its upper rooms, and its inner chambers, and all the rooms. And he goes on and he goes on and on and on and on. And then we get down to verse 19. And he says, and this he made, let me back it up. Get one more verse in, verse 18, so you get the flavor of it. For the altar of incense, made of refined gold, etc., its weight, also his plan for the golden chariot of the cherubim that spread their wings and covered the ark of the covenant of the Lord. So David is giving these instructions to Solomon, and he's describing what Solomon is to build, giving him the weights of everything. And notice what it says in verse 19. All this, and this is David speaking as I understand it, all this God made clear to me in writing from the hand of the Lord, all the work to be done according to the plan. So the point that I'm making here is that 20 by 20 altar had been made at the instruction of God. And for this man, Ahaz, to take that and supplant it with something apparently bigger is, a total affront to God. And he moved it out of the way, and he said, we're only going to use that for me to inquire by. In other words, I'm going to get my instructions maybe from God or somebody at that altar. The rest of the time, you're going to be using that big altar. So that's an insult to God, and I couldn't help but point that out as we go along here. So anyways, now he has made these changes. He has done all these other things. We're going to read out about worse, I think, before it's all over with tonight. Let's turn now to 2 Kings this time, chapter 15 and verse 30 very quickly. This is going back a little bit. There are some time considerations here, some year considerations. I'm not going to get into those tonight. I told you I wasn't going to bother with those things. If you're interested in that sort of thing, if you're good at math and if you can figure these things out, you're welcome to do it, but I'm not going to take our time to do it tonight. But anyway, in 2 Kings 15, verse 30, then Hoshea, the son of Elah, made a conspiracy against Pekah, the son of Remaliah, and struck him down and put him to death and reigned in his place in the 20th year of Jotham, the son of Uzziah. So this is going back some now. And Hoshea puts to death Pekah and reigns in his place. He doesn't. There's something that happens. He eventually, in fact, Tiglath-Pileser claims to have been the one to put Hoshea on the throne of Israel in some of his inscriptions. But those are some questions about whether that's actually the case or not. But anyway, so you have Hoshea now, and Hoshea should ring bells and lights should flash in your mind when you hear that name, because Hoshea is the very last king of the 10 northern tribes. This is going to be it. And he's going to reign for how long does it say? We're going to find out here in a minute. Chapter 17 and verse 1 of 2 Kings. Chapter 17, verse 1. In the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, Hoshea, the son of Elah, began to reign in Samaria over Israel, and he reigned 9 years. So we're within 9 years of the end of the 10 northern tribes. So he reigns. He is, what's interesting about it, let's go back and read, I didn't finish that up. Chapter 17, going down now in verse 2, which is an odd thing. I have never seen this about any of the kings of the 10 northern tribes. This is an odd thing. Notice what it says. In the 12th year of Ahaz, king of Judah, he began to reign. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, yet not as the kings of Israel who were before him. So now that's interesting to me. That he did the things that Jeroboam, it sounds like that Jeroboam did, but he wasn't as bad as the ones who went before him. And so you wonder, Why is this the case? I don't know. Maybe he's beginning to listen to some of the prophets. I don't know. But he's not as bad as some of them. And I think that's a good thing to hear at this point in their history when you think about what's going to happen to them. So I'm going to go ahead and read on down. No, I think that's as far as we're going to go tonight. I get so tempted to go ahead and read some of this stuff, but it gets into the next lesson, so I don't want to get into that. So Hoshea now is on the throne, and we're going to read about the death of Ahaz. Let's go now to 2 Kings chapter 16 and verses 19 and 20. This is the death of Ahaz. Now the rest of the acts of Ahaz that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? And Ahaz slept with his fathers and was buried with his fathers in the city of David. And Hezekiah, his son, reigned in his place. I want to go over now to 2 Chronicles 28 and verses 26 and 27. Again, if you're going to be following tonight, just keep your fingers between those two places. 2 Chronicles 28 and 2 Kings 16, 17, in that area. So again, 2 Chronicles 28 verses 26 and 26 and 27. Now the rest of his acts, talking about Ahaz, and all his ways from first to last, behold, they are written in the book of the kings of Judah and Israel. And Ahaz slept with his fathers, and they buried him in the city, in Jerusalem. For they did not bring him into the tombs of the kings of Israel. And Hezekiah, his son, reigned in his place. This is one of those guys that they disdained to take and put in the same burial place with David. They buried him in the city, yeah, but they didn't bury him with the kings. And so this is what they thought of him. And it also helps, I think, to explain a little bit about the next guy that's going to be king. And so this is Hezekiah. Now that should, again, when you see that word Hezekiah, and Hezekiah, his son, reigned in his place, then the two things come together. Hoshea in the north, Hezekiah in the south, the end of the 10 northern tribes. So you can count on that. It's coming. So you have then everybody in place for what's going to happen next. Let's talk about Hezekiah now just briefly. Go to 2 Kings chapter 18 this time. We're going to actually get into 2 Kings 18. Now, I have all of the references for his reign there. We will not be reading all of those tonight by any means. We won't even be referencing some of them. But they're there in case you want to study it yourself as you are, and you can get it out of the book. It's in there. So again, 2 Kings chapter 18 and verses 1, and we'll go through 7. In the 3rd year of Hoshea, son of Elah, Hoshea reigned 9 years. So we're within 6 years of the end of the 10 northern tribes. So in the 3rd year of Hoshea, son of Elah, king of Israel, Hezekiah, the son of Ahaz, king of Judah, began to reign. He was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Abi, the daughter of Zechariah. And he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, according to all that David his father had done. I can't pass that. I don't see this ever said about any other king up to this point, ever. And everywhere else, it was something less than that, at least, to say the least. But in this case, he did it like his father David. He began to reign in Jerusalem, and he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord, according to all that David his father had done. So we're going to move on and read down through verse 7 here, and then we'll skip over to another part here. He removed the high places. Now, how often have you heard a king of Israel, a king of Judah come up, and he did good, but the high places were not removed? Well, this one takes care of those. And so he removed the high places and broke down the pillars and cut down the Asherah. And he broke in pieces the bronze serpent that Moses had made, for until those days the people of Israel had made offerings to it. It was called Nehushtan. Now, Nehushtan sounds like the word for bronze and serpent, as I am told by the sources that I'm looking at. So this is something that they had actually been worshiping. And you can see why that would be the case. He trusted in the Lord, the God of Israel, so that there was none like him among all the kings of Judah after him, nor among those who were before him. For he held fast to the Lord. He did not depart from following him, but kept the commandments that the Lord commanded Moses. And the Lord was with him wherever he went out, whenever he went out, or wherever he went out. He prospered. He rebelled against the king of Assyria and would not serve him. Now, if you want to see how much he was helped, look at that last statement. That he was actually able to rebel against the king of Assyria. This is the biggest power in the world at this time, as far as I can tell. And so he was able to successfully and rebel against this man, the king of, at this point, I'm not sure who it is, I think by this time it's Shalmaneser, the king of Assyria. And so you have him being helped by the Lord because of what he's doing here. And we're not through with what he has done yet. Again, 2 Chronicles chapter 29 and verse 2, and he did what was right in the eyes of the Lord according to all that David his father had done. What a statement to make about any king in the history of Judah. Now we're going to get down to some of the things that he did, and we're going to just do some reading, so just bear with me on these. Let's go to 2 Chronicles now, chapter 29, and we'll start in verse 3. We're already there. Start in verse 3, and we'll read through verse 19. Before we start, though, let's just say this. Ahaz, we did not read it tonight, and I'm not sure when we read it, but Ahaz not only broke these things apart, he took the laver, the basin, off the oxen, put it on a stone pedestal. He did all these other things. Eventually, he closed the doors to the temple. Absolutely closed the doors. And so this is what Hezekiah is following. Ahaz has closed it. He's taken a lot of the stuff out. He has pilfered, it appears, a lot of the things that were in the temple. So this is what the reaction of Hezekiah is to all of that. In the first year of his reign, in the first month, he opened the doors of the house of the Lord and repaired them. He brought in the priests, the Levites, and assembled them in the square on the east. I need to say something about the first year before we go any further. The first year of a king's reign does not start with when he gets on the throne. And in this case, well, sometimes it's counted that way and sometimes it's not. So it's very confusing. But in this case, what he's telling us here is that in the first month, I'm going to use this big word, liturgical month. This is the first month. This is March, April. So this is the time of year when the children of Israel came out, went through the Passover in the land of Egypt. And they come out of the land of Egypt in that month. And so notice what's happening here. This is that month. They should be preparing for that if they're going to do it. So it becomes important later. He brought in the priests and the Levites and assembled them in the square on the east. I'm going to change my view here. Hang on a second. And said to them, "Hear me, Levites. Now consecrate yourselves and consecrate the house of the Lord, the God of your fathers, and carry out the filth from the holy place. For our fathers have been unfaithful and have done what was evil in the sight of the Lord our God. They have forsaken him and have turned away their faces from the habitation of the Lord and turned their backs. They also shut the doors of the vestibule and put out the lamps and have not burned incense or offered burnt offerings in the holy place to the God of Israel. Therefore the wrath of the Lord came on Judah and Jerusalem, and he has made them an object of horror, of astonishment, and of hissing, as you see with your own eyes. For behold, our fathers have fallen by the sword, and our sons and daughters and our wives are in captivity for this. Now it is in my heart to make a covenant with the Lord, the God of Israel, in order that his fierce anger may turn away from us. My sons, do not be negligent, for the Lord has chosen you to stand in his presence, to minister to him, and to be his ministers, and make offerings to him." Then the Levites arose, Mahath the son of Amasai, and Joel the son of Azariah, of the sons of the Kohathites, and of the sons of Merari, Kish the son of Abdi, and Azariah the son of Jehaleleel, and of the Gershonites, Joah the son of Zimmah, and Eden the son of Joah, and of the sons of Elizaphan, Shimri and Jewel. And of the sons of Asaph, Zechariah and Mattaniah. And of the sons of Heman, Jehuel and Shimei. And of the sons of Jeduthun, Shemaiah and Uzziel. They gathered their brothers and consecrated themselves and went in as the king had commanded by the words of the Lord to cleanse the house of the Lord. The priests went into the inner part of the house of the Lord to cleanse it, and they brought out all the uncleanness that they found in the temple of the Lord and into the court of the house of the Lord. And the Levites took it and carried it out to the brook Kidron. They began to consecrate on the first day of the first month, and on the 8th day of the month they came to the vestibule of the Lord. Then for 8 days they consecrated the house of the Lord, and on the 16th day of the first month they finished. Then they went to Hezekiah the king and said, "We have cleansed all the house of the Lord, the altar of burnt offering and all its utensils, and the table of the showbread and all its utensils, all the utensils that King Ahaz discarded in his reign when he was faithless. We have made ready and consecrated, and behold, they are before the altar of the Lord." Now, altar of the Lord. What happened to the great altar? I don't know. But the altar of the Lord was moved back to where it was supposed to be, and it's being used now. And it's been cleansed, and it's been consecrated. And all these other utensils, they put out the lamps. They didn't even burn the lamps. And they certainly didn't do the showbread and all those other things. So they have just completely abandoned any possibility of worshiping God acceptably. And yet Hezekiah is going to rectify the situation. And it takes until after the Passover for them to get that done. So here it is. What does it say? The 18th. Let's see. We have on the 16th day of the first month, verse 17. So they are now past the Passover, and they have finished this job of consecrating now this temple. So now we're going to read another long passage of Scripture, and so if y'all want to just snooze for a minute while I'm reading this, that's fine. But let's read this about the rededication of the temple, beginning now in verse 20 of that same chapter, 2 Chronicles. Then Hezekiah the king rose early and gathered the officials of the city and went up to the house of the Lord. And they brought 7 bulls, 7 rams, 7 lambs, and 7 male goats for a sin offering, for the kingdom and for the sanctuary and for Judah. And he commanded the priests, the sons of Aaron, to offer them on the altar of the Lord. So they slaughtered the bulls, and the priests received the blood and threw it against the altar. And they slaughtered the rams, and their blood was thrown against the altar. And they slaughtered the lambs, and their blood was thrown against the altar. Then the goats for the sin offering were brought to the king and the assembly, and they laid their hands on them. And the priests slaughtered them and made a sin offering with their blood on the altar to make atonement for all Israel. For the king commanded that the burnt offering and the sin offering should be made for all Israel. And he stationed the Levites. Am I supposed to be reading that? Yes. And he stationed the Levites in the house of the Lord with cymbals, harps, and lyres, according to the commandment of David and of Gad the king's seer and of Nathan the prophet, for the commandment was from the Lord through his prophets. Did anybody catch that? How many times have you heard, boy, I don't know if I have time for this now. How many times have you heard people defend using mechanical instruments of music in worship today, even though there's no mention of it in the New Testament, no authorization for it? They'll say, well, but David took it upon himself to do that. David added instrumental music to the worship in the tabernacle and in the temple. Yes, he did. And he had a reason for it. And this is the reason right here. And I don't know of another place where you find this. Notice what it says. He stationed the Levites in the house of the Lord, verse 25, with cymbals, harps, and lyres, according to the commandment of David and of Gad the king's seer, and of Nathan the prophet, for the commandment was from the Lord through his prophets. And so again, the point that I'm making here is that, yeah, they did, but they did that because God said so. And it was a commandment by these prophets and this seer and David. David himself was a prophet. So you need to, I marked that immediately as soon as I saw it, so you might want to make that mark yourself. Reading on down now. The Levites stood with the instruments of David and the priests with the trumpets. Then Hezekiah commanded that the burnt offering be offered on the altar. And when the burnt offering began, the song of the Lord began also, and the trumpets accompanied by the instruments of David, king of Israel. The whole assembly worshiped, and the singers sang, and the trumpeters sounded. All this continued until the burnt offering was finished. And when the offering was finished, the king and all who were present with him bowed themselves and worshiped. And Hezekiah the king and the officials commanded the Levites to sing praises to the Lord with the words of David and of Asaph the seer. And they sang praises with gladness, and they bowed down and worshiped. Then Hezekiah said, "You have now consecrated yourselves to the Lord. Come near, bring sacrifices and thank offerings to the house of the Lord." And the assembly brought sacrifices and thank offerings, and all who were of a willing heart brought burnt offerings. The number of the burnt offerings that the assembly brought was 70 bulls, 100 rams, 200 lambs, and all these were for a burnt offering to the Lord. And the consecrated offerings were 600 bulls and 3,000 sheep. But the priests were too few and could not flay all the burnt offerings. So until other priests had consecrated themselves, their brothers the Levites helped them until the work was finished. For the Levites were more upright in heart than the priests in consecrating themselves. Besides the great number of burnt offerings, there was the fat of the peace offerings, and there were the drink offerings for the burnt offerings. Thus the service of the house of the Lord was restored, and Hezekiah and all the people rejoiced because God had provided for the people for the thing, had provided for the people for the thing came about suddenly. So, Bill, I'm reminded of what you said about the book of Ruth. When we began to study it, somebody asked, I think Ian was doing it, and he asked something, what was your impression of that book? And Bill said it's a breath of fresh air in the midst of all of this garbage in there that these people have been doing. So this Hezekiah and this event is one of the most heartwarming events that you can find in this period of history at all. And then he goes on, and we will read the next. How are we doing here? I'm all right. Maybe we're running too early. We'll see. Then we're going to talk about the Passover. Once again now, the Passover was to be offered between the evenings, it says, on the 14th. So they were to take it, they put it up on the 10th. They were to offer it on the 14th, the evening of the 14th. So that would have been between the 14th and 15th. And they were to offer it, and then that night, of course, they were passed over for death. Their firstborn did not die. So here they have now, for how many years, we don't know, not been doing that. And that's one of the amazing things about this. While I have a little bit of time here, I want to just, do y'all like to camp? A lot of people like to camp. A lot of people like to go out and pitch a tent. Yeah, I'm hearing, I don't, I enjoy it. I've done some of it. But the Feast of Booths was an interesting thing because that's really what they did. The Feast of Booths was about everybody in the nation building themselves booths, little tent-like things, and living in them for a week. And so, I mean, that's a time to get out and have a good, and then I read all these other things. You get me started on this, but you read all the other things about the songs of ascent as they're going up to the temple. They began, say Zebulun. They're up there in Zebulun, and they're going toward Jerusalem, and they're singing these songs as they're going. And it's a jubilant time because they're going up to worship God. They're going up to share a meal in some cases with God. And so this is a time when, and how they missed it and why they gave that up, I don't understand, because it would have been a uniting thing for them. It would have, I think, saved them a lot of this apostasy that they went through, but they just let it go. And there's a lesson in that, and I'm sure somebody could make up a sermon about that real quick. But there's a lesson in it. So let's read now about them observing the Passover. 2 Chronicles chapter 30 now, and verses 1 through 12. Hezekiah sent to all Israel and Judah, and wrote letters also to Ephraim and Manasseh, that they should come to the house of the Lord at Jerusalem to keep the Passover to the Lord, the God of Israel. For the king and his princes and all the assembly in Jerusalem had taken counsel to keep the Passover in the second month. For they could not keep it at that time, because the priests had not consecrated themselves in sufficient number, nor had the people assembled in Jerusalem. And the plan seemed right to the king and all the assembly. And so they decreed to make a proclamation throughout all Israel, from Beersheba to Dan, that the people should come and keep the Passover to the Lord, the God of Israel, at Jerusalem, for they had not kept it as often as prescribed. We're going to read on in a minute. But notice here that this proclamation is not just for Judah. It goes to Ephraim and Manasseh, and it goes all the way. It says, that's it, that description, the whole of Israel, from Dan to Beersheba. Dan is the topmost town up there that the Danites moved into and almost fairly quickly got destroyed. But then you got Beersheba, the well of the seven, the well of the oath down there. And that's the whole length of Israel's property. Of course, you got the Gilead on the other side. But they're going up there. I don't know, it's not told exactly when this is, I don't think, unless I'm missing it, when this is. But they're trying to get everybody, all of them, involved. The apostates up there in the 10 northern tribes, inviting them down and wanting everybody to get involved in this. And again, it's just a ray of hope, a ray of beauty in the midst of all of this stuff. But let's see what they did. Verse 6. So couriers went throughout all Israel and Judah with letters from the king and his princes, as the king had commanded, saying, O people of Israel, return to the Lord, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, that he may turn again to the remnant of you who have escaped from the hand of the kings of Assyria. Do not be like your fathers and your brothers, who were faithless to the Lord God of their fathers, so that he made them a desolation as you see. Do not now be stiff-necked as your fathers were, but yield yourselves to the Lord and come to his sanctuary, which he has consecrated forever, and serve the Lord your God, that his fierce anger may turn away from you. For if you return to the Lord, your brothers and your children will find compassion with their captors and return to this land. For the Lord your God is gracious and merciful, and will not turn away his face from you if you return to him. So the couriers went out from city to city, through the country of Ephraim and Manasseh, and as far as Zebulun. But they laughed them to scorn and mocked them. However, some of the men of Asher, of Manasseh, and of Zebulun humbled themselves and came to Jerusalem. And the hand of the Lord was also on Judah to give them one heart to do what the king and the princes commanded by the word of the Lord. Now this is a decimated area. The 10 northern tribes they have lost all of this territory. They're just a small plot of land up there surrounding mainly the city of Samaria. That's it. That's all they have. And there was a time when Hoshea is taken and put in prison. And I don't know if this is during that time or not, but as he was king, he was taken and put in prison by Sennacherib, I believe it was. And so this could be when this is happening. They don't really have a king up there. And so he's trying to reach everybody. And as he's trying to do that, of course, you had this mixed reaction. But you do have some souls, and not that many apparently, but some souls that reacted in the way that they should have reacted. That God has invited you to come down to Jerusalem and meet with him in his place. And I think most of us in this building, had we been there, we'd have taken that opportunity and done it just as soon as we possibly could. So that's the lesson for tonight. Does anybody have any comments or additions they'd like to make? Am I early? I'm a minute early. You're good. Okay, nobody else has anything to add? Yes, sir.
You mentioned you weren't sure how long it had been since the Passover had been
observed.
done last. In verse 26, I'm not sure if it's talking about the Passover itself or just an event like this, but in verse 26 of chapter 30 it says, there was great joy in Jerusalem, for since the time of Solomon the son of David, king of Israel, there had been nothing like this in Jerusalem.
Yeah. So that tells you how far back they began to miss it. Okay, thank you. I didn't see that. I'm sure I did, but I didn't connect it.